Hey guys, we are back updating the Power Rankings for Big Brother 25 during week 11. And this was definitely a weird week where we had a twist, we had some changing plans, and we still have some intrigue going forward, though obviously a lot of it will depend on whether a certain group of players end up dominating the comps, but we'll get to that more in a moment. But there are 9 players to talk about, and let's not waste any more time, let's get right into the video. So starting off at number 9, we have the boot from last week, and here we have Cameron. And obviously this is to be expected. I feel like once Cameron touched the block, he really had no chance of surviving. And Cameron himself knew he had no chance of surviving, given that he pretty much gave up on trying to stay and was more so trying to get other people to play for the future, more so than himself. And obviously, there's a lot to say about Cameron's game. I feel like he was a very sloppy player. And I feel like a very apt comparison that I know I'm not the first person to make is to Frank from Big Brother 14. Like this player that was constantly either on the block or winning competitions and has some pretty questionable views on the world, if you ask me. But obviously, Cameron was someone that was also trying to play very hard. He made some big moves or attempted to make some big moves. And while he was effective, I feel like he was also incredibly misguided and it was also super cocky. And I don't really feel like Cameron's a good player at all. He'll definitely be in the conversation for one of the worst players to make the jury, if you ask me. But obviously, he's out of the game now, which is why he's here number 9. And with that, there are 8 players left in the game to talk about. And as usual, I'll be ranking them based on how lucky I think they're to win based off their current game position. But at number 8, we have the person most likely to be evicted on Thursday night. And here we have Corey. And unfortunately, this is where the ride ends for Corey. It's sort of weird because I'm actually someone that kind of likes Corey. I know like a lot of people don't like him. They find him annoying. And believe me, I feel like he played a incredibly flawed game. And I feel like he brought a lot of the target to himself here, where I feel like one of his biggest issues was him underestimating Bowie and him just assuming that she was on his side, not really locking her in until it was too late and she had already locked herself in more with the Matt and Jag side. And I also think a big thing yet to attribute is the fact that he went around telling people like Matt and Jag that he was going to be a comp threat at the end, as obviously Endgame is where all the mental comps are, which by itself is not entirely accurate, as we've seen in recent seasons that they've actually leaned more into physical comps. But the fact that he obviously has this bad read is not good to begin with. And even if it were true, it's still pretty bad, as he's literally telling them that he's going to be a threat in these endgame comps, considering it's not even the case. When I feel like that led to him being a target as well. He's also someone that really didn't know it was coming, where last week he came very close to getting backdoor, didn't really know like how much danger he was truly in there. And obviously with this week, I mean, even after the veto, like while it was unlucky that Blue won the veto in a spot where she was the initial target, he really didn't see it coming until it was too late. He felt like he was safe for the most part. And it wasn't until he got backdoored, got blindsided basically, that he kind of realized that his goose was cooked. Now there is kind of a world where he could stay, maybe the vote flip, kind of. But I feel like at this point, like it's pretty clear he's going to go home here. I feel like he doesn't really have much of a path, which is why he is here number 8. Now moving on to number 7, and it was actually pretty close between these two players, as I feel like both these players are kind of drawing dead at this point. And while I think this person is actually a bit more likely to win to get to the end compared to America, I also feel like they played more actively bad this week. And here we have Blue. Now, the thing about Blue is she does kind of have a path forward. Like, she still has a very strong relationship with Siri. And I feel like if she were to allow Siri to influence her, I feel like she could still make a big move in the near future. And considering she's one of the more likely people outside of Matt and Jag to win competitions, I think there's a world where she could be in that position. However, with all that said, I just could not reward the way that she played this week, where she was the target coming to this week, despite her having this close relationship to Matt and Jag, despite making it pretty clear that she was more loyal to Matt and Jag. Jag was still going to target her for most of the week. And it wasn't until like she won the second veto that she was able to be safe. The fact that there was even a second veto to begin with due to this twist is very lucky on her end. The fact that she's able to save herself that way. And even worse is the fact that she finds out that she was going to be the target due to the way the nominations broke down, or due to her knowing that Jag was a secret HOH, and she's still fine with it. She recognizes that Matt and Jag are the bigger threats and that she should be taking them out, but she's just completely blinded by her own hatred of America and her own moral code, which states that she thinks that Matt and Jag should deserve to win the game over America due to them winning competitions, and that she would rather make her own game worse off to take out America, despite knowing that Matt and Jag are bigger threats. And not to mention the fact that despite her loyalty to Matt and Jag still want to target her in the next week, which is also an indictment against her game. And to me, like, that is unacceptable in my eyes. Like, that is pretty actively bad. Like, she knows what she should be doing, and she's just refusing to do it due to her own vendetta against America. So I feel like for all that reasons, I can't really reward Blue. The fact that she could have gone home this week, the fact that she is still remaining semi-loyal to the people that openly targeted her this week. Like, Jag did not make it a secret at all that he was a secret HOH, we'll be getting into when we talk about Jag. And she's still moving forward, deciding to take out America if she were to win HOH next week. And while there is a chance that Siri could talk her over, I feel like all this just further highlights to me that Blue is not a very good player, and I feel like she's played more actively bad this week compared to America, which is why she is here at number 7. Now moving on to number 6, and we have the person that I was alluding to a moment ago, and here we have America. And I feel like in terms of win equity, I feel like America and Blue are kind of around the same spot here. I actually think Blue has a bit more potential to up her game due to her comp ability, but also with her potential to make a move. I feel like America, despite her being more willing to play cutthroat, is also worse off in competitions to where I doubt she'll even have the ability to do so. And I think it's pretty clear at this point that a lot of the jury just doesn't really respect America. I worry a lot that she'll end up just being a losing finalist at the end, which, considering she's losing Corey this week, does seem more of a possibility, even though Matt and Jag still want to target her in the near future as well, which I feel like is also pretty bad. So I did consider actually putting America below Blue, considering these circumstances, considering that I feel like America is less likely to end up in a winning position, due in part due to her lack of competition ability, but also with her being so clearly attached to Corey for a lot of the game. But with that said, I did feel like Blue played more actively bad this week, with her, again, recognizing that Matt and Jag are threats and then choosing not to take the shot in favor of targeting America for reasons. So I feel like that was enough to give America the edge, though at this point I feel like it's kind of unlikely she'll actually win, which is why she's here number 6. Now moving on to number 5, and we have someone who I haven't really changed my view on, but here we have Felicia, who was obviously on the block earlier this week, and there was a chance she could have been a back target initially, though eventually we do see Jag using the veto on her in order to backdoor Corey in America. And I think at this point, Felicia is someone that can still win the game to a degree, mainly due to the respect that she naturally garners. However, I feel like outside of that, like, her game wasn't really too much this past week. She obviously went to solitary confinement, which kind of led to a Felicia's funeral moment. And I think there's still a world where she could be targeted due to her seeming a bit more likely to make moves based on the way that she's talked about, the way the competitions are set up. But I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like Felicia is someone that hasn't really done much to move the needle for me from this past week, which is why she's here at number 5. Now moving on to number 4, and this was a very interesting pick if you ask me, but we actually have the current HOH, and here we have Jag, who is obviously part of this twist where he won a secret HOH, which by itself could have been something that he could have utilized to his advantage. And I do think that he ultimately makes the correct decision in targeting Corey, while I did question it to a degree, given the potential for people like America or Blue to set their eyes elsewhere, with the fact that Blue was initially targeting Corey, but with him gone, that could cause her to turn elsewhere. And with America obviously being pretty upset by what's been happening here, I think on paper, I've kind of come around to realizing that was probably the right move for him to make. However, I think the way that he handled the HOH and the way that he got to targeting Corey is completely backwards. Where first up, his move is to target Blue here, which by itself, the fact that he's targeting Blue, someone that has made it pretty clear that she's loyal to them, is really bad in my eyes. And obviously, taking out Blue is taking out someone that would have gone after Corey in the future. So I feel like that's a bit of a mistake there. You have the fact that he was terrible at hiding the fact that he was a secret HOH, to where like literally Suri was able to clock him after their first conversation. And before long, everyone in the house knew that he was a secret HOH, which is pretty crazy there. You had the fact that he tried to get Bowie up as a pawn, and the fact that he fought so hard for it, even though like Bowie like was pushing back against it, making it seem like that she felt betrayed by him, given the fact that she had just done him a solid by making a move to target Cameron there. I feel like that's pretty bad on his end. Obviously, the noms were pretty suboptimal here with Felicia and Blue. And considering that he fought hard to win the first veto over Blue, should have been pretty clear to Blue that he was trying to target her on a spot, but somehow she doesn't really see it that way. She obviously ends up winning the second veto, which forces him to reconsider. And he does eventually come around to the whole ploy of targeting like Corey in America here. But I feel like the fact that he even targeted Blue to begin with just opens it up for people like Suri to eventually use it that against him, where like she could just tell Blue that obviously Matt and Jag are coming after them. And while Blue is Blue, and Blue is someone that still wants to target America over him for whatever reason, I feel like at this point, Jag has really conducted himself in a way to where he has opened up this possibility, especially for a player like Suri, to potentially blow up his game. And I feel like between Matt and Jag, the same problem persists. Where I feel like if the shot's to be taken at Matt and Jag, I feel like Jag's way more likely to have the shot taken against him first over Matt. So I feel like you have that to consider. And also the fact that he has played this HOH very messily is a big knock against him. However, the one thing that I will say about Jag is he is still one of the better competitors on the board. He has the most competition wins out of everyone left on the cast. And you also have the fact that he could still play in the next HOH, which if he is to be believed, then he will be playing in the next HOH, which, by the way, that's a terrible decision by production to allow this to happen. And especially after everyone knew that he was a secret HOH anyway, but that's for another time. I feel like there is still some outs for him, and his game hasn't blown up as much as it could have, or at least so far it hasn't, though I could very easily see it imploding if he gets the bad HOH result next week, which is possible, but considering that he can play in the next HOH is obviously something that he can counter. But I feel like with the way that he's played this HOH, I can't really have many higher than number 4. Now moving on to number 3, and we have someone that, again, has been a bit more in the background this past week, and here we have Bowie. Now I will say that this week probably wasn't the ideal outcome for her, where obviously Jag wanted to put her up as a pawn at first, and while she does push back, I think that's probably not the best indication. And obviously the fact that she's losing Corey this week is probably not her ideal situation, where Corey was obviously someone that was very much like in favor of her, to the point where Corey thought that he had Bowie. And I think Bowie could have been a number for Corey, and Corey could have been a number for Bowie moving forward. So I think losing Corey is probably not the ideal spot. But with that said, I feel like compared to the other players, I still have some faith in Bowie. I feel like while she's not like the top favorite to win the game, I think she is still someone that can still surprise some people. And I feel like that was very much highlighted by Cameron's exit interview, where he seemed kind of high on Bowie as well, outside of Matt and Jag. So I feel like there's still a path for Bowie to win. And I feel like compared to the other players, I feel like she's still in a better spot than those players, which is why she's here number 3. Now moving on to number 2, and we have someone that has slid her way back into the top 2, and here we have Siri. And I feel like the fact that Siri has been able to get herself back into a solid position, despite her game having blown up around the mid game, and despite people at one point saying that they didn't trust her, for them to come back to really trusting her again just shows how great Siri is as a social player. I feel like she's still going to be in a very tight spot moving forward, where people like a Matt and a Jag, they want to take her deep into the game. Everyone wants to take her to at least the Final Four at this point, which is all very solid there. And plus, she still has Blue in her corner. Like, Blue was obviously someone that was being targeted until she won the veto. And while Blue still seems to be leaning towards, like, targeting America first and not really caring about taking out Matt and Jag if she were to win HOH, I feel like the fact that Suri has this solid relationship with Blue opens it up to where she could potentially get into Blue's ear if she were to win HOH. And it wouldn't surprise me if Suri is the one to ultimately flip Blue in order to make a big shot. So I think that's pretty good on its own. And obviously, she still has good favor with Matt and Jag, carefully managing those relationships to where, again, everyone in the house trusts her, and I feel like she's still going to be very solid moving forward. Now, yes, there is still that worry about whether she can actually get to the very end, but I still feel like you have to commend the fact that she has recovered as much as she has. She is by far the best overall player in the house, even though she's still not technically in the best position, even though her game hasn't been the most dominant as of late. But again, I feel like that's enough to have her here at number 2. And now, at number 1, the person I believe is the most likely to win Big Brother 25 is still Matt. And again, I feel like not much has really changed for Matt for me this week. Where, again, the fact that Jag could be eligible to play in the next HOH would be pretty beneficial to Matt there. The fact that Jag is by far the bigger target between the two is pretty good. And I still feel like he has a lot of potential to win out, particularly if Jag is taken out, to where he could just win due to his comp wins and just him being a pretty likable guy. I feel like not much has really changed here, and it's for that reason that I still have him here at number 1. And there we go, that will do it for this week's video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, it really helps out with the channel. I'll be back again next week to update the power rankings again, so you can stay tuned for that. I'm currently covering Survivor 45 as well as The Amazing Race 35, so you can expect weekly power rankings of those shows. I am now on Patreon, so if you want to consider supporting the channel, you can do so by clicking the link in the description. And if you haven't already, you can also join the Discord server by clicking the link in the description as well. There's a lot of stuff coming your way, but for now, that is the video. See ya.